here's what we're going to do. I'm going to tell you a little bit about sociocracy, and then we're going to louder. Okay. I'm going to tell you a little bit about sociocracy. We're going to demonstrate some different kinds of organizational structures. We're going to do some things in your small group, again, mimicking one of the meeting processes we use in sociocratic circle meetings, which we'll get to shortly. And then we're going to demonstrate how to have an election to elect people to roles. And then we'll have questions and pass out some information with further resources. So, sociocracy, as you know from the publicity for this, is a method of decision-making and governance where everybody at every level of the organization has a say in the policies that affect them, and the communication flows bottom-up as well as top-down. It's designed so that no one's voice can be ignored. Not the way that most organizations I've been in have been structured. So let me ask one more question about you first. Raise your hand if you are in an organization that has a pretty flat structure, meaning everybody's involved in all the decisions. Okay. Raise your hand if you, I should say, raise your hand if you are part of an organization or a company with a hierarchical structure. Okay. And is that, let's see. What else do we know? Who here are from communities that are using it or want to use this stuff? Potential communities, housing groups. Who is from a nonprofit organization? Who is in a business and a corporation? Okay, good. So would it be okay if I just tell you just a tiny bit about me so you know why you would be here to listen to me? So I'm now a consultant with the Sociocracy Consulting Group, and I conduct trainings and I consult with companies to help them implement sociocracy. This is recent for me. In my first life, I was a scientist in academia. And more specifically, I was a woman in a very male-dominated science environment. Anybody here ever worked in academia? Hierarchical structure, not designed in general so that no voice can be ignored. And I was in a department where the women, the most recent department I was in before I left academia, the women were definitely second-class citizens, and their voices weren't taken very seriously. And I was always curious and frustrated by that, because the women did not all of the teaching, certainly, but some teaching that the men did not do, and they advised students on all the things that faculty do, and they had ideas and information and perspectives that the whole department could have benefited from to serve the students better, but that didn't always happen. I then left academia. This was a long time ago, and that transition is a whole other story, which I'm not going to go into this evening. But shortly after I started a consulting business, before I knew anything about sociocracy, I was attending a program that a friend of mine led, and it was something about corporate culture and organizational culture. And he told a story about himself, which is that early in his career, when he had one of his first jobs, shortly after he was there, he started noticing all kinds of things about the way the company did things that didn't make sense to him, and he thought he had some better ideas on how to do things. So he talked to his boss about this, and his boss's response was, "We're not paying you to think." Now that would be discouraging enough for anybody to hear. It was all the more heartbreaking because this friend of mine was African American. So when I found out about sociocracy later in my consulting business, I said, "This is it. This is the piece I've been looking for, because no voice can be ignored, and you'll see during the evening how that actually happens." In addition, hold on, I thought went out the window and it will come back. This happens in my brain sometimes. Well, if it's important enough, it will come that way. Oh yes, It also seemed to me like the answer to a lot of issues that I had seen in companies and organizations, and it still seems that way to me. So let me start out by giving you a very quick overview of the parts of sociocracy. So there are three aspects. Okay, one is the governance structure. And I'm going to give you a handout later that has all this in it. Actually, I might now. I'll pass it out after we do the physical activity. So the governance structure consists of circles, and the circles are linked, which we'll get into in just a moment. So this is linked circles. So every group of people that works together regularly, whether it's a department, a team, a committee, whatever it's called, periodically gets together for what we call a policy meeting, where they set the policy that's going to govern how they work, including how they work together. And for purposes of those circle meetings, the hierarchy is temporarily dissolved so that all voices are equivalent. In addition, those circles are linked, which I'll explain in a little bit. So, find another color here. The next aspect is decision making, and that's by consent. So consent is a little different from consensus, as the term consensus is usually used. The term consensus means different things in different places. Consent means no paramount objection. So if the three of us were making a decision together, and I were facilitating the group, I would say, what's your name? Simon. I would say, Simon, do you have a paramount objection to this policy? We start out, every circle has its own aim or set of aims, which is the product or service that it delivers. So we know what our goal is, and for every decision, we say, is it going to take us towards that goal or away from that goal? And if Simon, if you could not do your job towards our agreed upon aim or set of aims, then it's incumbent upon you to raise an objection. And we all need to know that. So then I'd ask, Chris, do you have a paramount objection? I'm a member of the circle. Do I have a paramount objection? So we collect all of those objections, and together we problem solve them until everybody can live with the solution. So I'm going to talk more about that later, but that's the decision making. And let's see, one more color, which is feedback groups. And this is where you get continuous improvement. So this is lead. Do. Measure. Okay. So the leading function is the policy that we've just set. Then we're going to implement it, and then we're going to measure it. And then we decide what do we want to do with it after the measure. So every policy has a term and a measurement. So anybody ever been in an organization where you've decided some way of operating, and a few years later it's not working, nobody remembers how it got there, and it's getting in everybody's way, but nobody knows what to do about it. Has anybody ever experienced that? No, not in your organization. I can think of a few things in the government. So this gets around that because any policy that we pass is not set in stone forever. We're going to try it as an experiment. So the question is, can you live with it, and can you live with it for a specified period of time? It might be 2 months, it might be 2 years, depending on what the policy is, how long it would take to get some results. And at the beginning, we set the time, and we said, here's how we're going to know if it's working. Here's the measures that we're going to use. That's part of the policy. And so 6 months later, whatever the time period is, there it appears on the agenda. We've been doing it. We have our measures. We know who is responsible for getting those measures. That comes to the meeting, and then we evaluate the data. And we have three choices. We can either continue the policy as is, we can change it, or we can throw it out and start over. And that happens with every policy. So that allows the organization to self-correct. Okay, I'm talking about a couple more sentences, and then I'm going to have you stand up and do some stuff. Okay, you've all seen this kind of thing before. Board, CEO, department manager A, department manager B, C, and D. There could be more levels, there could be more in that direction, there could be more in this direction. Simple organization chart. So sociocracy was started over 40 years ago in the Netherlands by a Dutch electrical engineer named Gerard Endenburg. And he started it, he developed it to run his electrical contracting company. His parents started the business. It was a family-run business, and they asked him to take it over specifically to use it as a laboratory in how people could work together more harmoniously. So the family was Quaker. Gerard Endenburg grew up going to a Quaker school, so was well versed in Quaker consensus methods. He wanted to adapt that to be usable in the business world and in the secular world. So he had made his money before taking over as CEO of the company. He was an engineer for Philips Electronics, and we're all the beneficiaries of his work because he was one of the people who developed a patent for the flat speakerphone that's in all your cell phones. So he looked at this and he said, I'm an electrical engineer, I know about power systems. I would never design a power system this way. There's no feedback, you can't steer it. So all of sociocracy is designed so that you can steer organizations. So now I'd like everybody to stand up. Put yourself down somewhere. Your hands. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to stand on one foot. Pick either one, and just get your balance. Okay, and now you can go back to 2 feet. And now I'm going to ask you to stand on one foot again, and once you have your balance, close your eyes. Okay, so you can open your eyes again. What happened? Much harder. Why is it harder? No visual input. No visual input. You're missing the feedback. Our eyes provide the feedback, so that we're constantly making the corrections. Okay. So now this is going to be tricky because I have somehow expected a large space. I need to get us all in one circle. It's going to be a kind of odd-shaped circle. It's going to be oblong. So it's going to go around a corner. That's okay. But we need to get one circle. I kneel down in front of somebody. Nope. There's a room here. We got it. Good. Okay. So raise your hands again if you're part of a flat organizational structure. Okay. So that's what this represents. Okay? That picture being a circle. This represents a flat organization structure. Everybody has a say in everything. What are some advantages of this structure? Let me just stand in the center so I can see the people over here. So an advantage.
The people involved are all motivated and passionate about their work.
Okay, could everybody hear? Okay. Another advantage.
Empowered. Everybody feels empowered. Because they can make a decision. They can have an say.
Okay. One more.
There's a diversity of experiences.
Okay.
A little bit more skin in the game.
More skin in the game. Okay. What are some drawbacks of this network, of this structure? Yes.
Takes for
the voice of experience over here.
Very hard to come to decisions sometimes.
Hard to come to decisions.
Hard to have trust in people to be honest.
Uh-huh.
A single person can live so down.
Yes?
Hard to take advantage of expertise.
Hard to take advantage of expertise. Okay, so now, how many people are we, Chris?
Count off, around 25-ish.
Let's get in, I need 4 people standing in a circle around me. Any 4 people? Great. Are you one of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Surround you by 3
Great.
Great. So now I want 1/4 of the group to line up behind each of these people. Put your hand on their shoulder or something so we'll know which group you're part of. Like I said, this is going to be tricky. This guy.
Keep reading.
Oh, yeah, show us all.
Just line up. So we're already in a line.
It doesn't matter how many are present.
Line up the rest, don't line up with the best.
Okay, so that structure over there, this is that structure. I'm the CEO or the executive director, whatever my title is. You're my 4 department managers, and all of you are, everybody behind you reports to that department manager. So topologically, it's identical to that org chart, okay? You like what?
A lot of premature.
A lot of premature, okay.
Plenty.
Okay, so what are some advantages of this structure?
Clarity.
Yeah,
Clarity of.
Communication, like where information flows.
Okay,
and also authority, it's clear who's in charge and who gets to make the decision, so you don't have to argue forever.
okay,
Fred, I don't have to be involved in every decision.
okay. Any more?
They can all go home at the end of the day without worrying about all the things that I'm worrying about.
Ah, okay. And the disadvantages?
We can all go
Well,
home, not worry.
I mean, I'm worrying about whether they all are or not, so.
We can all go home and worry about getting fired.
Yeah.
Any other disadvantages?
The decisions might not be the best decisions. I mean, the person who's closest to you might not be getting input from the other people, might not see their perspectives, might not have the benefit of their knowledge. Typical for people to complain about their bosses that are not really making good decisions.
Okay.
Because they're not doing any of the work up here.
We're not doing the work up here. Right, you're doing the work.
You're getting a.
Ego and power get more intertwined, so it becomes about, oh, I have the power, so then instead of us all feeling like we're participating in good faith, it becomes about what side of the power structure you're on.
The communication that different people receive and their understanding of the organization might be very different depending on which leader they report up to.
Okay, so this is my department manager here, so we see each other in the coffee room one day and I say, Steve, no, Mud is your name. So Mud, how are things going? What do you answer?
Well, if you knew me, you'd know that my answer's going to be terrible. I always say that when people ask me how's it going.
And so if you didn't answer that, what would you?
How things going, guys?
So how much information did I just learn?
Not much.
Not. So there's, because why would he want to look bad in front of his boss? So I've gotten 0 information from that. Okay, so now what I want you to do is get in a circle or something resembling a circle without me, but everybody in your department.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah, I know, I was about to say.
So these are, so we now have 4 separate departments, but they're not connected, okay? So teams or committees. What are some advantages of this structure?
Agility.
Agility, say more.
We can do work together that we wouldn't be able to do.
Okay.
We're looking at each other rather than just being in a row where we're not looking at each other, so we can communicate better. We're more of a team.
Okay.
We all feel like empowered within our group to make decisions.
Well, this is part of the agility thing too, I think, where anyone can say, hey, this isn't working for me, or I think this could be better, and we're all checking in on it.
Okay. What are some disadvantages of this structure?
I have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, we're siloed. We're in silos.
We're in
not
silos.
communicating.
And we might be competing with each other, not cooperating.
Okay.
The different.
So now I'm going to ask the department chairs to come back here. and bring your whole circle with you, so the person next to you is also gonna